My client applied to over 700 jobs this year. She landed only 8 interviews. She made it to the final round 4 times. She was rejected twice and ghosted once. She was ready to give up the search and move back to her parents for financial support. Last week, she received a hiring offer and just started her dream job. Never give up when looking for a job, never.
Is this supposed to be inspiring? I was a young millennial child at this time, and I had just finished my first year of middle school. At the time, Magic the Gathering cards were a big deal, and I wanted to buy a better deck to beat all my friends at school. My parents, being typical boomer parents who didn't want me to have any fun, refused to ever buy these cards for me. So I, as an 11-year-old middle schooler, realized I'd have to get some sort of summer job if I wanted to upgrade my deck. One of my friends that summer got a job delivering newspapers, and he was making around $300 a month. So I asked him if he could help me get a job doing the same. A few days later, I was told they had another route available and I was immediately given the job. It was literally that simple. In the early 2000s, I didn't have to fill out 700 applications online, didn't need a resume or CV, didn't need to go in for 50 interviews, didn't need to take all these BS personality tests. I certainly didn't need a college degree or even a high school diploma. Hell, I didn't even have a middle school diploma yet. This would be the only time in my life where it was easy to get a job, as by the time I became an adult, the 2008 financial crash happened, and then that's when all the insane BS you see today came about and never really ended. Gen Z is often criticized for being lazy and not wanting to work. And I've made it the purpose of this channel to push back against this BS narrative. After older generations screwed over the economy and created these dog-shit working conditions, they lost the right to demand we work hard for them. But let's not talk about that in this video. Let's talk about the millions of Gen Z who are desperately trying to find a job and are willing to work. And let's talk about how hard it is to find a job now, even if you wanted to work. Looking for a caterpillar. Must have 5 years of experience as a butterfly and a master's degree. By the way, this is an unpaid position. The first problem you run into as a young person entering the workforce right now is that companies are just insanely unreasonable with their requests for even entry-level jobs. The word entry-level job shouldn't really exist anymore, to be honest, because if you go on any job search platform like LinkedIn, you'll quickly see that just about every job requires 3 to 5 years experience. Honestly, false advertising laws should apply to companies posting their job listings as well, because if it did, all of them would be in jail. If something requires experience, then, by definition, it's not an entry-level job. Like, seriously, how are you going with a straight face call, something an entry-level position, and in the very next sentence, demand 3 to 5 years experience? This leads to just an impossible paradox for young people today, as you can't get a job without experience, but you also can't get experience without a job. Traditionally speaking, the way around this paradox was to go to college. College was seen as a guaranteed golden ticket to success before, and it gave you a sort of 4-year buffer window where you could acquire skills without job experience. Unfortunately, there are 3 big problems with college now that make this option completely unviable. Number 1 is the massive, insane amounts of student loans, debts you'll naturally accumulate. This actually defeats the whole purpose of going to college in the first place, when you think about it. A college degree is supposed to uplift you to a middle-class salary in theory. But even if you get a decent middle-class job out of college, after you subtract the student loan debts you're going to be repaying every month, you're pretty much right back at poverty wages. Right back to where you started before you went to college. This is actually being generous, though, and assuming you even get a job from your college degree in the first place. Unlike in the past, a college degree is no longer a guarantee for a good job, or even any job for that matter. But none of these are even the worst problem with college right now, in my opinion. The worst problem with modern colleges right now is that they're extremely racist, prejudiced, and discriminatory towards young men right now. I mean, I get it, in the past, society did treat women and minorities quite poorly. But if you want to punish someone for it, punish the people responsible for it. Punish the old men who actually made these discriminatory policies. tax the old farts who actually committed these crimes, and donate it to some lesbian charity or whatever. Punishing young men who weren't even born when these things happened literally makes no sense. You know how in North Korea the worst punishment they give is when they not only throw someone into one of their infamous labor camps, but they subject their next 3 generations of descendants to a lifetime of hard labor as well. We look at that as especially cruel and unfair because they're punishing people who had nothing to do with it. And yet, American universities are pretty much doing the same thing to young men today. It turns out, American universities have a lot in common with the North Korean regime. Who would have thought? It's for this reason a lot of young men said screw this and just dropped out of college. And to be honest, that's exactly what they should do under these conditions. I saved over $100,000. By the time I was 27, here are my top money saving tips. Saving that much money was no walk in the park, but I was lucky to have the support of my mother, who worked tirelessly to pay all 4 years of my college tuition, which was $35,000 per year. So basically, you saved $100,000 by having your mom give you $140,000. Let's say you're one of the lucky few who somehow finds a way to acquire skills or graduate college without debt. You make it through the initial hurdle, and you're at least qualified to apply for the job. The problems don't stop there. In fact, they're literally just beginning. The first thing you're going to have to do is spend hours making and updating your resume or CV. This isn't such a big deal, right? It sounds reasonable enough. That is until you actually use it to apply for a job online. You see, after you've spent hours writing, perfecting, and updating your CV to present the most unrealistically perfect version of yourself, you upload it to the job website only to see that they immediately ask you to fill out your employment history right after that. What the actual fuck? The whole point of the resume was so that you could see my employment history, you dumbass. So you spend another hour filling in their BS questionnaire and putting on your perfect face. Hey, why do you want to work here? Oh, I've just always had a passion for your bullshit company. No, fuck that. I need to work to make money to survive. That's literally the only reason I'm applying for this garbage. You and I both know it. Can we just skip through these dishonest formalities and tell me if you're going to hire me or not? Then after that, you're taken to yet another website portal where you're given one of the bizarre personality tests. Where do you get your news from? What's the greatest threat to America right now? What interests you about this job? If you see a guy with a green hat walk in and he looks at you suspiciously with one hand in his pocket, what should you do? Like, what even is this shit? Am I applying for a job or visiting my psychologist right now? Oh, and to top of all off, this is the absolute cherry on top, by the way. This whole ridiculous process that'll take you over an hour to tediously complete isn't a one-time thing. Far from it. You're likely going to have to repeat this BS process literally hundreds of times just to get an interview. Then, you're going to have to go through 3, 4, or 5 rounds of interview where they're going to just ask you the same exact thing they already wasted hours of your time with in the initial application. All this so that maybe, you can get a BS job that pays $10 an hour. It's no wonder Gen Z doesn't want to work. It's no wonder a lot of them are even saying they'd rather die than work a 9 to 5. This isn't something to be criticized. It's something to be heavily respected. The job application process today is literally dehumanizing psychological torture. And I respect the hell out of the fact that, unlike generations past, they have enough self-respect to reject this dehumanizing psychological torture. When I look back on my childhood and how easy it was to get that $300 per month newspaper delivery job as a 6th grader, this is how I'm able to confirm that Gen Z is absolutely right for not wanting to work under these atrocious economic conditions. I can confidently say that as a man in my 30s today, I wouldn't be able to get that newspaper delivery job right now if I wanted to. Technology has phased out the demand for newspapers and many other jobs along with it. Even if the job were still around, I'd have to jump through all these insane hoops of resumes, interviews, and personality tests. This is why when boomers and corporate shills try to gaslight you by saying you just need to acquire more skills and work harder if you want a better job, it's complete bullshit, it just is. There's no way I'm less skilled now than when I was an 11-year-old middle schooler. And yet it was way easier to get a job back then. The Gen Z job search experience is without a doubt an absolute hellscape. But even worse than not getting a job today is actually getting a job. That's because the economy is so screwed now that job-related expenses cost even more than the job itself. Check out this video right here to learn more.